and review some of the changes to 5885 that happened. Those changes that were implemented in May of this year, and then naturally discuss a little bit of emergency preparedness. Before I get started, I did have an opportunity to have a couple of my employees come with me. I let them have some time to come with me to be here to help answer any questions that we may have as we go through the presentation this morning. And they're in the back of the room. Donna Heiberg, raise your hand. Sarita Evans and Lorraine Henry. Sarita Evans and Lorraine Henry, their main focus is assisted living facilities. They're some of my subject matter experts for the assisted living facilities. Lorraine Henry is my supervisor, ALF supervisor right here in the Orlando area. So some of you may know her if you have facilities in this area. You may have talked to her on the phone or spoken to some of her staff. Sarita Evans works for my assisted living enforcement and unlicensed team. Yes, we still have a lot of unlicensed ALFs out there. Can you believe that? Still have, and we've been talking about this for years, still have unlicensed ALFs out there. What's even worse for me, I think, is when my staff call me to tell me that we've confirmed unlicensed and we find out that it's owned and operated by a licensed ALF provider. That's a bad day, isn't it? That's a bad day for that person that owns that unlicensed that's operating a license, because they're going to lose their license, right? That's in the law. Sarita's kind of works statewide, so she's here to also to help answer questions. So let's get started. Let's talk about what we're finding, what's going on. A little bit of statistics. We have over 3,000 assisted living facilities in the state. That's a lot, right? We have over 3,000 assisted living facilities in the state. Now we know the largest concentration of assisted living facilities is in South Florida, and then actually in our Tampa, St. Petersburg area. But that's a lot of assisted living facilities. I know they range from like our 4 beds on up to several hundred beds of our assisted living facilities, and they range from just a standard ALF, LNS, ECC, and LNH are the specialty licenses. And some of you may have some of those specialty licenses. The top 10 deficiencies. So I want to take a few minutes and go through the top 10 deficiencies with you so that you can kind of understand. Now, we've talked about our top 10 deficiencies in several other venues for the past couple of months. So some of you may have heard this before, but for some of you it may be new material. So let's go through what we've got. What I have here is going from 1 to number 10. So as we talk about the top 10, I think it always amazes me, since we've been talking about this for several years now, what is the top most cited tag we keep finding? Background screening. Background screening. Are y'all taking a picture of me?
Yes.
Really?
Smile.
I'm sure y'all, well, if you're posting it somewhere, I want you to reduce me by about 30 pounds, and blonde hair, and 20 years younger. But I know they are up here. I did unfortunately get things late to Alberta. I've been on the road a lot, so I know your leadership with your association will make sure that you get this out, because I think what's very important, or you can send me an email, I'll send it to you. I've been emailing out my presentations a lot lately. What's important for you and what I encourage you to do is, now a lot of you are administrators, right? You're the administrators. Maybe your nurse leadership is here with you. Take this back to your staff. You know, who's doing all the work? Ain't you? Because you're sitting in here all week. Right? So who's back there doing all the work? You know, they need to have this same information. They need to know when we come in for a survey, they need to be ready. They need to be educated, know what the regulations are. I always hate it when a provider tells me, you know what, I didn't know that was in the regulation until I got my report. And this is somebody's been around for years. And I'm like, you know what, it's not a secret. This information is out there. It's not, we don't come in and just, hey, surprise, we don't make up stuff. That'd be a mess, wouldn't it? It's in the rule, it's in the statute. And I just want to say, you know, we don't make up the rules. The Agency for Healthcare Administration doesn't make up the rules. We just have to enforce them. Your elected officials make up the rules for us to enforce. So that's our job, to enforce those regulations. But it's important that you know the regulations, you know what's in the statute, what's in the rule, but your staff know it as well. Because we're going to ask your staff. We may talk to you, but we're going to ask your staff some of these things. So here we are, our topmost cited tags that we say. We are going to talk about background screening when we get to that. But you know, one of the things we have talked for several years about background screening. I myself have gone around the state and talked about background screening, compliance with background screening, and making sure that you go through the clearinghouse and add your employees to the roster. So you do realize, some of you may have been unfortunately received notification from us that you receive a fine, a $500 fine, for failing to add your employees to the employee roster. Okay? It's important to add your employees to the employee roster. What's the law, for one thing. But if that employee, unfortunately, is arrested, it's a disqualifying offense, you're going to be notified. That's what's called the rat back. That's why we call it the rat back, so that you are notified. But that's very important. So these are our top 10. And we've seen the top 10 for ALF shift over the years. There were a period of time where we went through where a lot of our top 10 was just really based on a lot of record review. Over the years, we've really done a lot of training with our staff, and that's why I tell you to go back and provide this information to your staff. It's all about educating your staff, your employees, and that's what we've done, is taken a look back and re-educated our employees. Get out of the conference room. You know, go out. We need to be out doing observations and interviews. So these are our top 10. As we go through, I'll start with number 10 and go down to number 1. Our number 10 most cited tag for 2017, assistance with self-administration of medication. You'll see here the number of times that we cited that. And we have seen medication deficiencies, as we note here on the slide, over the past several years. 5+ years has been in our most cited, been one of our most cited tags. Basically what we're finding with this is unlicensed personnel assisting with self-administration of medication just really is not following the statute, not following the rule. Our 9th most cited tag, 079 staffing standards. You'll see here the number of times that we cited that. The facilities, you must have your schedule, must follow that schedule. And as a reminder, there must always be somebody in your facility with access to records. Now, I think that the rule outlines very clearly about that access to records. We need to have access to records as well. But your staff who are in the facilities need to have access to the records. I can tell you there have been several times where we've gone on site to do inspections, and even just recently going on site to do an inspection and have asked for to see individual residents' records and been told by the staff there, oh, well, all the records are locked up, we don't have access to the records. So we don't know. We don't know what medications they have. We don't know anything about their care and services. So again, you know, make sure that your staff have access to those records. Our 8th most cited tags relates to supervision. That ALF must provide care and services appropriate to meet that resident's needs. We know that. You as administrators, the buck stops with you, right? It's your responsibility to make sure there's a general awareness of that resident's whereabouts. One thing I want to mention regarding this for supervision, we do still have a lot of issues related to residents who elope or who wander. That's one of those requirements under adverse incident reporting, but we do still see a high number of adverse incidents reported related to elopement. So I want to make sure everybody understands also, when we go on site and we do an investigation related to elopement and supervision, a lot of times when we're citing this tag, we're citing it at that Class 1 or Class 2 level. That Class 1 or Class 2 level. When we do a Class 1 or Class 2, you're going to be fined. And it's some heavy penalties, right? Some heavy penalties. So make sure that you're looking at the supervision. You're looking at those residents that you have approved for admission to your ALF. Can you meet that person's needs? Do they have a high intensity or high proponent of wandering? You know, are you really going to be able to say to us, hey, yeah, I'm aware, I have a general awareness of the resident's whereabouts. Now, we all know that residents can come and go, right? They're not locked up. It's not a prison. They can come in and out. But you still need to have that general awareness. And especially if you know that that resident that you're aware of when you admitted that resident. You allowed that resident to be admitted to your ALF. You knew that they had a safety issue. Maybe they were a little bit confused sometimes, but that you need to make sure that you can meet those services. Because again, when we're looking at 0025 under supervision, resident supervision, we're going first to see, is this a class 1? Does this rise to that level of immediate? Is there some immediate concerns that we need to cite at that high level? And then we go down to, is it a class 2? So we're looking at that class 1 and class 2 when we cite these deficiencies. One of the other things under resident supervision regarding maintaining that written record of significant change, I won't spend a lot of time going over that, but this is the definition of significant change. This has been in our requirements for some time, so just wanted to point that out and have that information there for you. Number 7, the seventh most cited tag that we have is resident records. One of the biggest things that we find here with resident records is specific to that second bullet that requires that ALF to maintain those weight records every 6 months for residents that need assistance with activities of daily living. So this is one of the main things that we find out of compliance with our resident records. The 6th most cited tag is food and dietary services. Now we just came in, y'all had a little lovely breakfast, didn't you?
Yep.
Got a lovely breakfast. Y'all probably had a little lovely lunch, nice dinner. You really kind of focus on what you're having for your food, right? When all of you came in, you were excited. Look, I got my plates. That's nice. And wouldn't you like to be served like that every day at home? I would, but I'm not. But that's nice. But what I wanted to kind of mention is that we know that an individual, when they're in your assisted living facility, they think about their food, right? Is it attractive? Is it appealing? Does it taste good? We know that eating's a social event, really, right? It's a social event. I didn't see any of you pick your plate up and leave and go back to your room and eat. You like to sit here, right, and talk and interact and engage. So think about that really, your food, dietary services, it really is a social event. So we need to make sure that when you were looking at, food and dietary services, do you have your menus? Are your substitutions comparable to what's on the approved menu? And we definitely want residents to be part of that menu planning. Now, we understand you can't serve filet mignon every night, right? And you may have some residents that want these high-end food items. We understand that. Maybe want some that want, I just want a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. It's been years since I've had a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. But, keep that in mind. But we encourage the residents to be part of that menu planning. One of the things I want to point out, and we found this with Hurricane Irma, 3-day supply of non-perishable food and water. We got a lot of complaints after Hurricane Irma. I'm sure you know that. We also conducted over 1,700 visits in our facility, in our residential facilities after Hurricane Irma. 1,700 visits. Now, we didn't hit every ALF. Not every ALF was impacted by Hurricane Irma, thank goodness, right? But we did over 1,700 visits. And one of the things that we were looking for is, well, not only, residents safe, is it cool, is it hot, is it too hot? We were also looking at your supplies. The biggest things we found is that 3-day food supply of your non-perishable food items. So make sure that's very important with emergency planning. Making sure that you're in compliance with these requirements. 5th most cited tag, continued residency. Continued residency. As the administrator, you know that buck again stops with you. Continued residency. Can you continue to meet the needs of these residents? We know that there are exceptions that are being made for our hospice residents. It's one of the things that we find the most is related to, those hospice services. Keep in mind, with hospice services, make sure that's addressed in that person's plan of care. That's one of the big things that we look at for continued residency. 4th most cited tag, in-service, staff in-service training. I know that when the rule passed, there were some additional language in the rule for the pre-in-service training as well. We'll talk about that in a few minutes when I get to an update about the statutory and rule changes that happened this year as well. The third most, resident rights. So I want to make a couple of comments about resident rights. Just like, remember how I told you about A0025, resident supervision, how we talked about that tag? Well, we kind of do the same thing with resident rights. That's a big issue, resident rights. It's outlined very clear.